Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Laker, and this is
Laurie Woodward.
Welcome to our podcast, Love at First Page.
This is going to talk about the producer-writer relationship.
And today, it's really, really important to consider this aspect of relationship because we are talking about the writer's blocks. But you might think now, okay, writer's blocks, I know that. Why do I need a producer? How can a producer help me with my writer's blocks? Well, this is exactly what we have today on our agenda. We also will talk about more what it means to really open up yourself and your space with your screenplay, with your baby to the right producer, and how this hand in hand relationship is really important to get you from the paper or from screen to another screen to the big screen,
From
right,
small
Laurie?
screen to big screen. Yes, yes.
From screen to screen.
Yes.
So how is your experience? I mean, you've been writing for how long, first of all?
Oh gosh, I've been right. Well,
What?
since I was a kid, I've
Uh-huh.
been writing screenplays for maybe 4 years, 4 or 5 years. But I started writing novels 25 years ago, and I've written short stories my whole life. Yeah, and poetry. I was that kid with the journal in the corner of the class, not paying any attention to the teacher. Writing
Not,
poetry instead. Yeah. So
not paying attention to the teacher? Weren't you a teacher?
don't tell him. Don't tell him. Oh, no, no. I always paid attention to you guys. No. Yeah.
But yeah, this is an important thing that really influenced your books, right? Being a teacher.
Oh
So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yes, I was an educator for more than 30 years. Yeah. And that definitely, led me on different paths for my books and the choices that I made. And I was also very inspired by other teachers and families and my students. My students inspired me every day. Yes, yes.
but this is kind of hard. It's almost like when you are a physician, when you are a medical doctor and you have some ailment and you have to see another colleague of yours, you don't trust because you know best, because you studied that stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so I can assume as a teacher, stepping into this role of being or becoming a student again, which is kind of what you have to do when you start collaborating with somebody who wants to help you, or when you are asking somebody to help you to the next level, to take your baby to the next step, making it walk, making it talk, making
Uh-huh.
it really like become a full breathing, yeah, piece of art. So how was your experience in this?
Well, as I said in previous podcasts with us, is I came to this as a novelist. I'd written 8 novels, and
This
I
is
was
a
kind of
pro,
looking for
people.
something.
This is a pro.
Yes, yes. So I was feeling like, okay, I think I got this. I know how to write novels. But then I decided, and I was getting all these emails, these people saying, "Oh, pay me this money, and we'll turn your novel into a screenplay." And then I thought, you know what? I don't need to pay somebody else. I could do it myself.
Mm.
And I started reading lots of books, like you said, and studying about it, and wrote a draft or two, and I was getting a little bit lost in the process. So as I said before, I contacted my dear friend Leland Douglas, who's a well-known screen writer in Hollywood, and asked him, if I could hire him to be a mentor, and he agreed and mentored me through several drafts. Now I thought I knew what I was doing, but no, no, no. I had to really humble myself in and listen to no screenwriting is a whole nother ball game. There's a different approach. If you're writing, always it's always in, present tense and you have to be very concise, very, very quick and so on. So it took a lot of putting my ego aside and just saying, okay, I'm gonna learn from someone that's an expert in the field that's been doing this for 35 years. exactly.
And guys, don't get that wrong. Leland is not sponsoring this show.
No, he's not. No, 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 and he's not
Yeah.
up for hire. He did that. He did that as a favor to me, and I paid him because I felt like his time was, was worth my pain. But yes, no.
This is a very important topic that you bring up, paying somebody who helps you in your creative work. Because I came across a lot of writers. I have countless writers pitching to me their projects that want to get their screenplay to screen to the big screen. And I recently had this conversation with one of the potential writers who wanted to join and wanted to collaborate with me. And he said, after we had a lengthy conversation and I explained him the process, I explained as well with you and gave the references of the projects that we were working on. Artenia was one of those. And then he said, wait a second, it's my idea. So why should I pay you that you help me with my idea, which is already my idea? It's my idea. So you are benefiting from having this idea. And I
Mhm.
said, yes, it's an idea, but the ingredients that is missing is how you get your idea really to materialize into something because
Mhm.
it's words on on a piece of paper right now or on a screen when we
Sure.
look at it digitally. But
Mhm.
I love to print it out. So for me, it's words on paper, period. And to make it something unique and something lasting and something impactful, you can't do it just by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, many writers, are shy people, and we keep to ourselves, and so we write in a vacuum. But we really need to open ourselves up to getting critiques and input from others. I mean, I've been a part of critique groups for, I don't know, 30 years, and their input's just invaluable for me. And I'm so thankful to all the people that helped me along the way. It's not always easy to
Mhm.
take that, that constructive criticism. It can be hard on you. And I've also worked with other people in critique groups that really they wanted to do one draft and they didn't want to work anymore. I'm done. Yes. No, no, no. Yeah, you got a great idea, but it can always be polished and it always could be better.
Uh-huh.
So then that oftentimes that's when the work really begins. Once you get your first draft down. And many people don't know that when they go into writing, that writing is rewriting. And it's a good idea to take as many different opinions as possible and for constructive criticism so that you can rewrite the work in a way that's marketable. Now, it might be beautiful for you, as the writer. Yeah, you might love it and it might speak to you, but that doesn't mean it's going to speak to a large audience.
Mhm.
And so when you take like your perspective or a producer's perspective and really listen to that producer's perspective, someone that has experience with marketing, someone that knows what's hot out there and what isn't, someone that's used to reading lots and lots of screenplays and looking for, those gems within them,
Mhm.
that's going to be very valuable. And so my advice would be to this writer that you are working with is listen, and don't take it personally. We talked about that in our first episode.
Yeah.
Check your ego at the door. Say
Mhm.
that this isn't about my ego. This isn't about me. This is about my work and
Right.
polishing it so it's the best it can be. It's kind of like having like polishing idea, silver. Silver, you got to polish it and polish it and polish it until it shines. And that's what you want to do with your work. Not I worked with many writers and quite honestly, they didn't progress because they weren't open to that process, to the revising
Yeah.
process.
Yes. Openness. Openness. And openness is built on trust, right?
Sure. And trust is, you're in a vulnerable space. As we said before, it's your baby, it's something that you have created from your heart.
It's
And
very
is and you don't want to put your heart out there to people you don't trust. You want to put your heart out there to people that you do feel comfortable with. So, in working with you, Danny, that's not something that I'm concerned about because when I get criticism from you, it's not in said in a way that shatters my ego. You don't go, that sucks. You don't forget it. No, you don't. No, you are.
good.
No, you are good at putting it in a way that is kind because you all always do the we talked about the hamburger approach,
Uh-huh.
first a nice soft bun, so you give me a little compliment, then we get to the meat of it, inside and all that stuff. And then you end with a nice soft, soft other bun to kind of soften the blow of, the criticism that you have. So I very much appreciate
Oh,
you
thank you.
and
I,
when you have criticism that you do so kindly because it is challenging for writers, but hubris will get in your way. I agree that if you think that your work is perfect after just one or two drafts and are not open to the constructive criticism or you're not open to suggestions,
Mhm.
A, you're going to look like, the kind of writer that producers and directors aren't going to want to work with. And B, your work's not going to become the best that it can be. And isn't that what we all want? We just want something that's the best it can be. And I don't have any delusions about myself, Actually, I was talking to Danny before this that, my problem's the opposite. I'm too hard on myself and too critical of myself that it's like, oh, if you rewrite it two more times, I can write it more.
Yeah,
Um,
but this is as well. This has the same effect because what happens is we're running in circles, and it all boils down to being open
mhm,
to accept these, yeah, the criticism, the feedback, the improvement suggestions, but also open to be open to say, hey, I don't know really how to make this character more real. Can you
mhm,
help me with that? Can we sit down? Can we have a session to craft this person so that it becomes a real person and
mhm.
is not just a flat description of an actor that I would like to have included there,
Sure,
right?
exactly.
I want Timothy Chalamet in that, and so I create my character like that. So when Timothy reads it, for sure he will right jump to it. He won't because you don't know him that he in that way. You know him from a movie. You don't know what he really likes and wants, but what's appealing to any actor and what's, in my opinion, coming from the producer and director perspective is an actress perspective is a challenging character. I want to feel it. I want to be it. That there must be some edges to it and there must be some realness to it, some
Mhm,
rawness to it. And
exactly.
this is something that oftentimes can't happen in your isolated ivory tower that you've built as a writer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, if you want to create a three-dimensional character, getting feedback from other people can be helpful. And also making sure that when you create each character, you know everything about them. I do what I call character sketches. I have where they were born, what school they went to, who's in their family, what was their, first, romantic experience, what's their favorite room, what sort of clothes do they like to wear? If they're getting ready for bed, what is that whole process like for them? Now, you're not going to put all of those things into either, like for me, a novel or a screenplay, but if you know your character intimately, inside and out, when you go to create dialogue, when you go to create how they're going to react in any situation, it's going to be consistent
Mhm.
with that character and it's going to be interesting to the reader. And that's another thing, like don't be too nice to your characters either. Give your characters what are called troublesome backstories. Make sure that they have some sort of a trauma
Yes.
in their past
Mhm.
that is driving, their actions throughout, your novel, your screenplay, your short story, whatever,
Mhm.
and that their reactions are consistent with, you know, having to deal with whatever that trauma or backstory is. Like my newest novel that's coming out soon, Time Memorations, I have an ornithologist who's when she was in high school, she went to a party. She snuck out, went to a party with her best friend, and it was in gang territory, and her best friend was killed. And
Mhm.
so she now has survivor's guilt. And that's something that is an issue she has to deal with constantly.
Yeah.
And in all of her interactions with others, even romantic interactions or friend interactions or even professional interactions, she has to deal with that. So that's something to think about is making sure that your characters are full-fleshed and that you've created an entire life, even a timeline for those characters. And that'll make them, more real for the reader.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
it's the same with the settings, right? With the locations. So either you have to really know the locations that you're writing about, or you create like what you do mostly in your novels, create these fantasy worlds. But
Yes, world building is important. I agree. Yeah,
yeah,
very much so. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and world building is a whole different chapter, which we will address in another in another chapter of our episode, because I want to dedicate really a lot of time into that because
Mhm.
it's something that I came across quite often. Most recently, that people have this tendency to go into that fantasy
Mhm.
realm and want to engage in world building, but this
Mhm.
can't be done overnight. And so I think this deserves really to have a full
Mhm.
episode on that. But
Sure.
to jump in back and forth, especially when a writer wants to create a character that is so lively and so real, and they have a backstory, they try to squeeze all into the screenplay. And so they include multiple flashbacks and
Oh,
multiple
yes.
side stories
Yes,
and,
yes,
and
yes.
story arcs. And it's like, whew, how are you going to follow it? And then I recently had as well the conversation with the director I was pitching it to, and he took a look at the screenplay that I sent him and said, "Oh, do you think this is a potential where we can collaborate on? And is this a screenplay I should take on? Because as I can't do it by myself, I have to ask as well other people." And
Hmm.
I was talking to this director. It was not Artania, it was another screenplay. And this was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and the writer then was like, "Oh no, this is you don't understand it. So maybe you're not the right people to make my story happen." What do you say about that? Not the right people? Is it
I
easy?
would I would say that's hubris what you're talking about. So it sounds to me like the writer was not open to criticism. That the writer could, because when you're a writer, you can see the story in your head. I mean, you can see the movie play out in your mind. But that doesn't mean that the way that you executed that on the page is going to help others have the movie play in their mind.
Right.
So yes, ideas are beautiful. Yes, be creative. Yes, run with things. But at the same time, like I'm lucky because I was an educator for 30 plus years. So when I write, a lot of times I write as a teacher, and I think, okay, if one of my students were reading this, would they understand it? Not that you want to simplify or dumb down your work, but you do want it to be comprehensible. And
Hmm.
if it's not comprehensible to the reader, you're never going to get it to the screen if they're so confused by it. It sounds to me like that person might want to be a novelist instead if they have so many storylines going on simultaneously. I mean, it might work for Pulp Fiction, but I think it would be pretty challenging to have, in so many different directions in a screenplay, and to make it cohesive, unless you were a very, very experienced screenwriter and filmmaker who who had been able to do that and execute multiple, story arcs at the same time. Yeah.
Even then, these are like the what you just mentioned, Pulp Fiction, these iconic movies that have this kind of yeah, new way of storytelling. This
hmm Yeah, it's non-linear, like Quentin Tarantino
non
is known for the non-linear
yes,
storytelling.
non-linear and
Exactly.
also experimental in the way the
Exactly.
story is told, the different switches between the genres even.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Genre jumping. And
Yeah,
then points of view too, switching points of view to have multiple points of view.
yeah,
That can be jarring though. It can almost feel like a roller coaster that's jerking you here and there.
yes.
And that's something I don't want to do for my reader. I mean, I want them to be on a roller coaster ride, but I don't want them to be like on this old roller coaster that's all jerky. And I want it to feel smooth. I want it to feel like a modern roller coaster that's I want it to be a smooth ride for them, both when I write my novels and when I work on the screenplays. They're very cerebral writers,
Hmm.
and intellectually their stories are like, wow, you can just go amazing. But then they don't always have heart. They don't always
Yes.
open up. And I would have to say, I wrote a semi-autobiographical novel called Finding Joy a few years ago. And that was hard for me because I was dealing with issues that from childhoods of abuse and things like that. And there were times I didn't want to open my heart. I didn't want to be that vulnerable. But when I was, the writing was powerful. I believe in that. I believe that we should empower each other and try to always see the good in each other and to help each other to see the good in ourselves.
And next week, more about exactly that, how to empower each other, how to unleash the superpower inside of each of us, and how we can really make something so complex and unique like Artenia happen because of that.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, see you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye. And if you like what you saw, then
Don't forget to subscribe by clicking the little bell right in the corner of your screen.
we are looking forward to see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye bye.